Hey, everybody. This is Dominic D'Angelo of WrestleZone.com, and I am here with my degenerate brother. Right over there is Marcus D'Angelo, and we are two. How many, Marcus? Can you count?
I hate that we do this every time, Dominic.
We got to do it. We got to do it. It's part of it. It's the shtick.
Don't spell it out. Not TWO, not TOO, not 2 TO. We're talking the number, numerical 2.
Dropping the deuce. Two Dynamite dudes with attitude, baby.
Dropping a deuce on you guys every week.
Oh, my God. Don't say that. That's
what's wrong with that?
Marcus, come on. Let's have
too
some
far? Too much?
What's that? Marcus, I am a pro wrestling writer. Did you know that? And I write illegible gibberish.
Dom, I think that you're letting Mark Madden get to you a little bit too much.
No, never.
No, it's he's really not good at anything. So it's hard to take him too seriously. I'm sure he's gotten really good at adjusting his oven when he's putting in his fucking pizza rolls.
Oh man.
But aside from that, I can't come up with too much. He's good at Dominic.
When you come at the king, you best not miss. That's all I have to say. Boy.
I'll tell you, that was hard to listen to. Anyways, guys.
Hey, I'm the host here today, okay?
Oh, okay. Are you sure you don't need me to take over? You're all up in your feelings.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of feedback. Not like corresponding feedback, just vibes I've been getting from social media about your hosting abilities. Quite questionable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think enough people listen to us to critique my hosting abilities. I would contend that the 4 people that download our podcast don't care about my hosting abilities.
Well, I like to think that we have a jam-packed audience listening to us. But this week's program, Marcus, I felt to be a little jam-packed. Did you get that vibe? Were you on that same kind of boat? I had to write, so that was extremely stressful during the time. So I was covering it. A lot of stuff to cover during that show. But I wanted to get just the viewer's opinion and see if I was off base there or not. Jam-packed show.
I don't know. I didn't really notice too much more than normal going on. I will say, the whole thing with Sting was sort of like it overhung everything. And obviously it's a new element to Dynamite, so it's something that we're not quite used to. Then we had like the moment with Shaq later on. So it was like they were, I can see your point now. I'm thinking back on it. They were trying to get all their shit in.
A lot of stuff. And like even before, we got the actual show happening, we had a card already that was huge, like a lot of stuff lined up. And even for a 2-hour show, you're like, man, that's a lot of matches and a lot of segments they kind of got to get through. And it was overwhelming. I felt personally, I thought it was a good show. Overall, I thought they executed some things in like the high points, such as Sting. I think was the show stealer, that segment. You might feel differently. But I really thought the follow-up to him, big question about Sting, especially when he took over the Crow vibe and the silent gimmick, which he's so damn good at, like, which is, how we all recognize Sting. I thought this follow-up of him cutting a promo where he's Sting, but he's like, he immediately connects with the fans by connecting with Tony Schiavone. And then he immediately plays into, I think he doesn't, like, Cody's kind of a little bit, you don't know how Cody's feeling. He's a little bit surly and a little bit, patronizing in certain ways, I guess. And I felt like Sting's reaction to him, too, was very well done. And I thought it was a good, and him establishing the fact that somebody like Sting, who went to WWE, who we only got small doses of here and there, like not a lot. And, I think when they used him, it was very understated and very undervalued, ultimately. Like, the payoff for Sting was bad in WWE. But I think him saying, hey, I'm here and I'm going to be here on a consistent basis and be a factor. He's like, but what I'm going to do, that's kind of my business at the moment. But he teased Darby Allin. He played into like, hey, Cody, you're not on my agenda right now. And that kind of thing. And then like, hey, I'll see you around, kid. I think it was fucking cool. I think it was really, really fucking cool. So, Marcus, your thoughts on the Sting segment, which I thought was a show stealer, but maybe you have a different opinion.
Well, yeah, it's going to be hard to beat that kind of a nostalgia pop on any show. So yeah, I would definitely say that was the highlight of the show. I thought it was interesting. You just don't know what kind of Sting you're going to get. So I think they set the tone with this interview. Because I mean, if you think about it, over the years, we've seen so many variations of Sting. The quiet, non-speaking, brooding character.
The child narrator over the top with the vulture.
Right. And we got the Sting that like beat up the kid in the Sprite commercial. We've got.
I don't know if that was a huge version, but okay.
It was memorable. Then we've got like Joker Sting. We've got boisterous Sting. So it's like, all right. I initially when he comes in, you're like, okay, I guess we're getting the quiet, brooding Sting, which I'm like, that's cool. I like that Sting. But then, this Sting comes out where he's just kind of like, he's having a good time and he's happy to see Tony and kind of poking fun at Cody. And it was like, I like this Sting too. Maybe not as much as the other one, but this is still a good version of Sting. I mentioned it last week, Dom. I kind of see Sting almost as an Undertaker type of character in pro wrestling, where like he has that like that presence, that like very if he wants to be intimidating, kind of overwhelming presence in the ring. So I was sort of hoping to see that, like AEW's basically version of the Undertaker, a legacy talent. But I'm good with what they wound up with, and I'm excited to see what he does. Are we building toward? I mean, he kind of called out Darby Allin. Are we building towards something, or was he just saying that Darby Allin's kind of like a copycat Sting?
That's what I'm intrigued by, because like when I was writing during this time, I'm looking up and looking down, and he was like, "I'm here for other reasons," he said. I did notice that they showed Darby, but did he point to Darby? What he did point to Darby. Okay. So I think it leads to a lot of, I think he's teasing a match essentially, I think, for it, because you think about in that context, he was also talking about, I'm in the jungle with animals, back in the jungle here, and I'm back on TNT, and Darby's the TNT champion. So I think it really sets it up. And you know what? I honestly, and that vignette that with Darby earlier on with Dr. Sideburns there doing the Rorschach test. Did I pronounce vignette wrong?
Vignette, hang on.
Okay, thank you. Your things, I don't even hear it, Marcus, so you were good. Like you could have no-sold it. But
Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's talk about that vignette.
Yeah, the beignet. I felt I felt that was an awesome setup too, because we got a little bit of what Darby was feeling last week when Sting showed up, like it brought the intensity and that stare down and everything like that, and then Darby just like snickers at Sting, like putting it, like cutting him down almost, and therefore putting himself up on that level, which is what you want to see young stars do like that. So I'm very intrigued by it. I think Sting's, and to your point of like getting these different versions of Sting, maybe this is a Sting that's going to be very well balanced, and we're going to get both of that Sting. The best parts of Sting, I think, like this babyface Sting that loves Tony Schiavone and that loves the fans, but also you don't want to cross him, and like you'll get that moment of like if you do some bad shit, whether it's to the business or to him, he's going to make you pay for it. And so I think they set it up very, very well. Legacy talent, obviously, you got to be careful. You got to figure out how to utilize him in the best way and the safest way possible. But Sting, man, like he was not happy with his run in WWE, and it's great to see him in a position where he's going to be elevated to that star power. And people that I've interviewed from DDP to Arn Anderson have all said, like, we handle our legends well here. And if there's any indication of who's a legend, Sting is one of them. So I'm excited for it, man. I thought they set it up very well. My favorite segment of the show. So more?
And
go ahead.
I think that they're building toward Sting and Darby just based on, kind of the context clues. Sorry, my cat's being wild. Based on kind of the context clues, it seems that way. And I can see Sting having a little run with the TNT title. I really could see that being a thing.
And who wouldn't want to see that too? I think.
Yeah, it's smart. You know, you're not putting the big belt on him, but I mean, you're putting a big enough belt on him that it's going to be relevant. I think that so what they're doing is smart as well, as far as Darby and Brian Cage. By the way, I thought this was one of the best Darby Allin
I agree.
vignettes so far.
Marcus,
he didn't have
vignette, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. He didn't have to beat up on like a fucking Dodge Intrepid with his skateboard this time. He's not like spray painting anything or setting himself or other things on fire. It was quick and simple. Him and Brian Cage. So here's what's both good and bad. He's setting up for Brian Cage title shot, and so it seems like we're trying to get from Brian Cage to Sting. Possibly for the TNT title.
You mean Brian Cage going to beat Darby and then fight? Okay, no. You mean
so? It seems like he's going to feud with Brian Cage. So this is the smart part. He's got to beat somebody significant on the way to Sting. And Brian Cage is certainly a significant talent. I'm really wishing it wasn't Brian Cage. That's the only bad part, because Brian Cage hasn't really beat anybody of any real significance yet in AEW. And I want to see him start to make that run, because he's one of those guys. He's got a great look. He's very skilled in the ring. He's a moneymaker of a guy. So it's cool that they're smart enough to say, okay, well, Darby's got to beat somebody significant on the way to Sting. I just wish it wasn't Brian Cage.
That's a great point.
I mean, hey, if you're gonna do it, how about Dustin Rhodes? Like Darby beating Dustin Rhodes, it's another legacy.
Great.
Talent.
That's great. Because you know what, they put Dustin back in the spotlight this week, and
in a bad way.
I don't think for him. I think I kind of get maybe the aspect of where you're coming from with Dark Order, but I think like they're setting. I mean, Dustin didn't take their shit and like slapped them, and if he's gonna be a featured player, which I think he should be at this point, like Dustin's like still can go at 50, still wants to go at 50, and like you put him, like you set him up in an angle. I mean, I don't think this is a bad starter angle. Maybe what this will lead into, and we're kind of going off the rails with this one, but we have Hangman tagging up with Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Maybe we'll get some sort of butting of the heads of Hangman and Dustin, and that's going to lead to something. But ultimately, like those guys are kind of, the Stan Hansen rule, I think, plays to both of them in a lot of ways. And who wouldn't want to see, like, if you're positioning those guys in the right way, why wouldn't you want to see Dustin and Hangman align it? Maybe that's what we're going to get at some point, but I don't know, man.
Would Stan Hansen be entertaining offers from a couple goofs wearing cowboy hats? Probably not.
No, probably not. Maybe if he had a couple.
Would Stan Hansen be in the ring with Evil Uno dressed as a cosplay wrestler, and not give him the lariat while he's on the microphone?
Well, Dustin slapped the shit out of him, so I mean, I could imagine that. I could imagine Stan Hansen doing that. I think Dustin's playing by the Stan Hansen rule, all right?
I guess that plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's, both guys should be playing by the Stan Hansen rule. Seems like only one of them is so far. And I don't know, man. It's, again, to me, the right move is Dustin should be a featured talent. Feature him coming after the TNT title. Okay, his brother lost it to Darby, so now he wants it. And that's the perfect guy for Darby to go over on the way to Sting.
I like it, man. I really do like it. I think that's good.
Why am I not booking AEW?
I hope Tony Khan may be listening again. Who never knows?
God knows he watches. So Tony, come on, man.
Check it out, Marcus. You have a Jacksonville hat on right now, don't you? It's just turned around.
How dare you? Yeah, I'm wearing the America's team hat, Dominic.
Oh God. Oh man, Marcus, that's we're wearing, if we're one of talking subpar NFL teams right now, this is it. This is it, buddy.
Yeah, you're cream of the crop. You and I, between the two of us, we're gonna have one hell of a draft this year.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, the other obviously major big takeaway of this week, and probably the primary talking point, has been Kenny Omega and Don Callis, and that started off on Impact Wrestling, and I watched the whole show. I cover Impact on a weekly basis. Marcus, you caught the Kenny segments, correct? Did you catch any of the matches or anything in between, or was it just strictly Kenny stuff?
I'm a big Brian Myers fan, so
I was
I did
curious
take
about that.
yeah, I took the time to watch his match. He's very good in the ring.
He's good.
He's just
He's very good.
very like fluid. He's got good size. He's got a good look.
Presence.
I
Presence.
yes. I'm not crazy about his finisher. I think that just having a clothesline. It is funny that he calls it his gimmick is kind of like he's the most professional wrestler because he's from New York. So he calls his finisher the clothesline from Stamford, which is funny. That should be more. It should be more of a setup move, in my opinion. Other than that, man, there's no flaw in his game. He's the real deal as a pro wrestler. I'm anxious to see if he gets a little AEW time with this crossover stuff.
It's going to be very curious to see who gets the crossover time. Now, before we get into this Kenny stuff, it was broken in the Wrestling Observer that Kenny will be on Impact this coming week again, and that he will be featured in pay-per-view matches, headlining pay-per-view matches for Impact. And I mean, that has to be a clear indication too from this segment of what happened leading up to it, because otherwise, if they didn't do that, Impact's world champion will look like a dipshit. Like, because you saw the Rich Swann part of that, didn't you too?
I actually missed that. What happened?
You missed that. Okay. So let me explain it to you. So, we're getting to the tour bus part, and Rich Swann's leaving. He just had his match and he's leaving the arena. And this joke of a security guard standing there with his clipboard. He's like, "Oh, sorry, you're not allowed in because Kenny's closed off. The world champion has closed off the parking lot." And Rich Swann's like, "What, you mean Moose? Because Moose is running this angle of where he's the TNA champion, when he's carrying the TNA belt around." And,
no,
it's bad. It's horrible. I think I'm not a big fan of Moose or how they're handling him. But anyways, Rich Swann's like, Moose is not the champ. He's like, "Come on, man." And he's like, no, we mean the AEW world champ, like, basically. And Swann's the world champ. And so he's pissed off and he can't get in. And then Josh Matthews, who's the lead commentator for Impact there, he has the invite. So he gets let in. So
they're pretty much saying AEW is better than us. They're kind of publicly, and they're right. They're publicly acknowledging it, and they're not wrong. It is better than Impact. I fast forward through most of it, but didn't take much to see that it's just not the same level of a production.
Obviously. I mean, like, no audience. The fact of just kind of like I think for what they do, their production values are very impressive. And
yeah,
to that point, to the point, like them being in Nashville, their theme music overall, I think, is pretty rock solid for a lot of the wrestlers that they had. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, like, they're the small fish in the bigger pond when it comes to AEW, and they're the ones that are really benefiting from this alliance. But I think, well, let's get to that in a second. But let's get to your thoughts on Kenny and Don Callis in that tour bus scene happening, starting off, and then we'll talk about the Dynamite segment.
Yeah, I thought it was, both did a good job with promos. I think Don Callis is a pretty exceptional promo. He did a great job. Kenny Omega with his shtick, I thought it was really good. Basically how he justified why he would hit somebody after a gentleman's agreement. I thought it was smart. And yeah, man, I like the fact that he was talking about how he likes to collect, and it's almost like he wants to collect belts from different organizations. And so, I mean, they made it pretty clear that he's coming after the Impact World title. And he's probably going to get it, just based on context clues. I think he's going to wind up holding both titles, and it's super interesting stuff in my book.
I'm with you. I like it, man. I like it a lot. And I really loved that segment, like the Impact segment being on the tour bus. I thought Don Callis and Kenny work so well together. And like, to your point of Kenny using that as the reasoning, like Don Callis being his father figure and somebody attacking him, motivating him as to do the underhanded thing of screwing John Moxley out of the title was great, heel move, but like something that like an audience member, okay, I can understand why you would do that. That's a legitimate kind of reason to kind of motivate yourself to do that, but still that was a dick move to do. So it all played into that. And just really well done, like condescending to Josh Matthews, condescending to like Moxley with when they unscrewed the name tag off of it and throw it off, and just very, very well set up. And then the hype to Impact, I'm sorry, to Dynamite on Wednesday was very well done too at the end, and like got me amped up for it. Now let's move forward to the aspect of Dynamite, where I thought it was going to be the closing segment of the show, but it wasn't. It was like we still had a main event to get to too. But talk about what you thought about the follow-up with that. How did they execute it? Did you think it worked? Did you think it needed work? Give me some thoughts.
I thought it worked. It just seemed mostly like more of the same that we got on Impact. It was basically like, it was almost like saying, here's what you missed on Impact if you didn't watch. Like it was sort of like the same vibe. But no, man, it's like they work well together. They being Omega and Don Callis. I think that they're a good tandem. And yeah, this is a very exciting time to be a pro wrestling fan. Because there's a lot of meat on the bone here. And when you think about it, Dominic, the only thing that really makes sense would be for Kenny to get the Impact title. So like logically, if you think about it, Impact is getting a very, very big rub from Dynamite.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's.
You're. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you were losing it. I was losing you. Repeat what you're saying again.
I was just saying, to me, Tony Khan, he's a savvy businessman. And so I think probably if I were to guess, the way that this conversation went would be something to the effect of, hey, look, we'll give you guys the rub. You can have Kenny for some of your pay-per-views, maybe increase your pay-per-view buys, but he will get your title. And it's, why not? Why not? Like, if you were Impact, would you say no to that? I would.
Hell no.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing, though, is it's tough that it ultimately can put Impact. It puts Impact in a better position, but what any company with lesser popularity has to be concerned about is and maybe this is something that you don't really have to necessarily worry about at this point in time, and maybe just like this is an opportunity, so make the most of it. But like what they have to also kind of factor in on it from Impact side of things is once AEW starts kind of maybe pulling away in some form or fashion, maybe this relationship will always be there in some way, and there'll be trade back and forth. But you also have to kind of think, and maybe Tony and AEW are going to help them with that to an extent. And I'm sure, if you're working together, and Tony's all about working together with people, it seems. So it's like, maybe there will be some give and take, and Tony will be more than willing to help some amount as long as it protects AEW and their stars too.
Well, and that's kind of the beauty of the situation from Impact standpoint, is you say yes, Kenny can win our championship, but then like eventually, like let's say they do eventually pull out, then Kenny's got to do the job for somebody on Impact, and you're just getting more eyeballs on Impact. You're getting a larger fan base watching this guy from Impact beat Kenny Omega, and then so the fan base can now say, okay, so that guy is really cool. Like that was a great match. I want to see more of that guy. I'm going to start tuning in on Access every Tuesday. That's
the tough thing, though, because once you take AEW away, and once you, like I said, that might not happen. It might not happen for a long time, as far as we know. But once you take that away, it's almost like
never happen.
Huh?
Maybe it'll never happen.
It could never happen. It could never happen. And yeah, but like if that tends to happen, you really hope to establish some stars by that point. But if you establish those stars, there's always competition too. So it's like if you create stars, it's gonna, you can't maybe pay those stars to stick around. It's a sticky business, man. That's pro wrestling, though. And that's what's great about pro wrestling, ultimately, is because you want the stars to have leverage and to have that fluidity to decide and make those decisions to what they want to do. So, I mean, it's a really fascinating time. And ultimately, I don't want to talk about the show over in generalities until the end, but overall, I was so overwhelmed by everything that came at me during the show. And maybe that's just from the writer perspective of doing it live in the moment. But I was so overwhelmed and flustered and out of it essentially. But like looking back on it, it's super duper duper exciting to write and watch this kind of thing. And I want to talk about, you watched the Tony Schiavone clip, the paid advertisement?
Yep.
I think that's one of the biggest talking points of this week in general.
It was well done. It was well done. And it also established that, they're making sense of the situation where Tony Khan, logically, this would never happen. Like, somebody who is contracted in baseball, for example, like Major League Baseball, if you're not like a Deion Sanders or something like that, you wouldn't be running over to the NFL all of a sudden and saying now I'm playing quarterback. So because you've signed a contract to be a baseball guy. Obviously, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders were exceptions, but they had that written into their contracts.
Right.
But so it felt like that where they're like, yeah, no, Kenny, we're letting you do this. I could stop you with injunctions, but I'm not going to. They sort of made sense of the whole situation. Tony Khan made it clear that he's buying time on Impact.
Paid advertisement.
Exactly. So to me, it was cool. It was well done. And it's again, this is the kind of thing that gets eyebrows raised and makes people say okay, what is going to happen tomorrow on Dynamite? I've never watched that show before. What's going to happen tomorrow on Dynamite? And then in turn, people like you and I who never watch Impact, all of a sudden we're like,
I watch Impact. I watch Impact.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't. I'm all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I got to see what's going on Impact if they're going to keep doing this crossover stuff.
No, but you also make the point that you watched the Kenny segment and you watched the Tony Khan segment. You did, and you watched Brian Myers' match. You didn't watch the whole thing. So
I just watch for the guys I'm interested in, but a lot of fans probably are watching the whole thing, and they're seeing the guys like Ethan Page, and they're seeing the guys like
Shea, Willie Mack. I could name a whole bunch.
Yes, exactly. What's the name of the guy? He used to be in the band with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Short guy.
Short guy
bald.
in the
short bald guy.
Short bald me?
No, he was the Impact champion there for a minute. He came
Eric
back
Young, was he in the band?
Eric Young. Yeah,
he was in the band? I don't remember that.
Yeah, because he's buddies with Kevin Nash.
Wow, he was in the band?
Yeah.
Wow.
TNA. He's a member of the band.
That's fucked up. I didn't know that.
I think it was after Pac left.
Wow. Holy shit. Damn, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he's there. Motor City Machine Guns. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about, too. Tony Khan mentioned, I hear you got some tag teams here. And he's like, we got the Young Bucks, the best tag team in the world. He's like, so there's tease for that. And Motor City Machine Guns, you got the North. Ethan Page kind of teased that maybe he's leaving Impact. Who knows? But you have tag teams there too. Something very standout that you probably didn't get to see, that the Knockouts division in Impact is amazing. Like, if you're talking about a women's roster that's top notch, Impact has it. And so I think that's a very big takeaway that they can use too.
I got to see Rosemary, and I'm like, Abaddon. So there's that.
Well, that's what dude. I know.
Pair of those two.
Yeah, right. You could definitely do that. Yeah, but no, man, it's a very, very intriguing time, and there was some other point I wanted to make too in regards to just Tony Khan in general being an on-air character. This was his first kind of thing where he's like, okay, Tony's in the thick of it, and it's obviously sometimes like with somebody with a Vince McMahon, it's paid off, but people have always imitated the heel authority figure. I don't think Tony's really a heel at this point in time. or anything like that. He made some heelish comments in a roundabout way if you're like an Impact fan or stuff like that. But I mean, ultimately, I think he was a babyface. And but how do you feel about that? And do you think that's something that can be maintained, or how would you handle it if you were, say, Tony Khan?
Well, I think that Tony Khan's exposure on television should be limited. I'm not saying that I dislike him on TV, but you start to get into like some muddy markish waters when you start doing that, where it's like, okay, is Tony Khan? I know that after an episode of Dynamite like a year ago, he gave somebody like a stunner in the ring or something.
Oh yeah, I think so. I can't remember who he did that to, but yeah, I think you're right.
Right, which like it can be okay, but in this case, it feels a lot like somebody like, hey, when I was a kid, I always had a dream of giving somebody a stunner in front of all the fans, and like so they like let him live out like his fantasy, and it's like, okay, like let's try to limit him on TV. In my opinion, I think he should be like a last ditch effort, like let's say that they bring in like a commissioner who's like completely crooked. And he's been
Don't do
screwing
that.
stuff.
Please don't do that. Like I don't.
I agree. We've seen that played out too many times. I'm just referencing a classic wrestling angle. Like let's say if they have this commissioner that's crooked and it's been happening for months, then Tony Khan should come out after months and be like, tired of your shit, and then he like sets him up with like some kind of a crazy match or whatever where the commissioner's
Well,
gonna
how
get his
about it
come
this
up.
way? Like some heel wrestler is running rampant and breaking so many rules, and finally it gets to a point where Tony Khan steps in, something like that.
That kind of thing. Over the course, like we should see him once every 4 or 5 months.
What I would love is like ultimately, yeah, Tony Khan's like he's the guy in charge, but more so from like the outside, the storyline part of it. So like, when he does his media scrums or something like that, obviously Tony Khan's the head of honcho, so you're going to talk to him. But what I would like to see is maybe from a storyline standpoint, he does our Jack Tunney figure kind of thing that we're doing with the AEW draft, where he like appoints somebody. And I would like to see, and I'm sure you would be in the same boat too, is that he removes, from a storyline perspective, he removes the EVP tags off of everybody, like from the Young Bucks to Cody to Kenny, which they haven't really addressed with Kenny. Like they haven't acknowledged that he's an EVP on air. But like, I think they like making him an on-air character can establish him as the authority figure, but it can also then you have that opportunity to remove everything from it too. Like you present that to the worldwide audience, like, okay, he is the man in power, but you get him back in at some point and be like, listen, I'm going to be more so from the business side of things, the financial, the deal making side of things. I'm appointing this person here, a wrestling expert. Let's just say my draft GM, Bret Hart, comes in and
Eric Bischoff.
he's ruling the roost here. Yeah, you could do something like that. And that there you go. And then Bischoff only shows up on very, very rare occasions and plays that role of like what we were just talking about, where he comes in when Kenny Omega is acting wild and something needs to be done.
I would say with Bischoff, you could even have him once a week, but have him show up remotely, like have him show up on the screen from his house, and that would work fine, So it's we're in an interesting time for that was that kind of thing wasn't really as much of an option back in the day. It is an option now. Like Eric Bischoff theoretically could be a GM for 5 years and never leave his house out there in Cody, Wyoming,
and we're totally used to that aspect now too. I mean, Bischoff, he posts so many beautiful photos of where he's living at. Like everybody's got to be jealous of that shit. And then it's a 10 times a better background than what we both have.
Loud, absolutely.
But yeah. So I mean, no, all that stuff can come into play. You can really utilize that kind of thing. And like when he does show up, it's big news, and it makes big stuff. So
no doubt about it. So
hey.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. Even if it were Bischoff, I kind of wouldn't even mind seeing like the evil GM a little bit.
No.
I know it's played out, but I wouldn't hate it with him just because I love Bischoff.
He could maybe show some heelish tactics, but ultimately you don't want somebody corrupt in power, or it's because that takes away. Again, it's something we've seen. It's been worn and done and all throughout. So it's just like
that's like your opinion, man. Let's hammer on though.
All
What's
right.
next?
Let's see. Something that I thought was another big aspect was probably I wanted to really get your thoughts on the opening match, actually, with the Young Bucks and TH2. I actually really liked it, and I thought, it's a Young Bucks match. They kind of already explained, like, hey, this is what it's going to be, that kind of match. And, I thought Jack Evans really stole the show. And I thought him and Nick Jackson kind of both set themselves up for another highlight of being single stars almost. I don't know. Let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I can say that I definitely thought that that this match was, between the two tag teams was better than their previous one. It seemed like they got their timing down a little bit better, which was cool. And yeah, I mean, a good match. A good match that ran a little bit too long, in my opinion. I think when Angelico took the first double super kick, that should have been the finish. But he took a double super kick, and then he got hit with like a slew of other just devastating moves. After which it's like they did everything but fucking get him with a shotgun, and this motherfucker just kept rolling the shoulder up before the three count.
He kept putting that shoulder up.
Right. And it's like, all right, let's be a little bit real. I mean, this kid's getting hit with a sledgehammer, shot, stabbed, and he just keeps kicking out. I'm like, what in the hell? So that was getting ridiculous. They should have just ended it. I mean, you can't have false finishes in every match. You just can't. I know everybody wants to have a 5-star Dave Meltzer, slap a Ganza, but it's not the right way to do pro wrestling. I think that most matches, pretty much every match until you get to a pay-per-view, should end like somebody hits a devastating move, and that's the end. So aside from that gripe, it was a good match, well done. I thought that the setup for the Acclaimed, I have to look at my notes. The setup for the Acclaimed was good, where like one of them got, I think they threw Jack Evans toward the
somebody got thrown in
guys.
the crowd. One of them,
right?
Yeah.
But then again, it's similar to the Darby Allin situation, where both members of the Acclaimed afterwards they start to get confrontational, and out comes SCU, and it makes sense. The Acclaimed have not beat anybody of significance yet, so let's get them to beat SCU, and then that makes their match against the Bucks mean even more. So it was the right move, and I'm anxious to see where it goes.
So yeah, like I thought that was fine. My big gripe with Dynamite this week though was this kind of thing happened after every match. Where it was like somebody got involved that wasn't involved, and then that's going to set up for next week. And it's kind of been a very regular pattern with Dynamite these past few weeks, where it's like you get these 1 week setups, and I'm sure we've talked about this, I think maybe last week on the show, where it's like, they're doing it boom, 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 like, okay, oh, this sets up the match for next week, and here we go, we got the match because this happened to happen during this other match. So it's just like, I think honestly, if you remove that aspect of some of these things, like you had who's the dude that got what's the guy's name? Aaron Solo got kicked by 10 in the match with Dustin Rhodes because he like reached out to 10 and then 10 pump kicked him or something like that. And then we had that other thing. Who else got set up that came? Well, Miro ultimately at the end. Or things different. Just people getting involved that weren't involved in the matches happens way too often here. And that was what was really overwhelming and really jam-packed. Gave me that jam-packed vibe to Dynamite this week. And so I feel this was a fine setup, but I feel like our intelligence and would be less insulted if you just had the matches next week. Maybe you advertised, hey, and not specifically this one, but I'm just using it as an example, is like instead of like SCU getting involved with the match next week or something, or getting involved in this match, maybe just announce it like, hey, the Acclaim is going to make their debut against SCU next week. Get ready for
and you're right, it would have accomplished the same thing and kind of helped to to shave off the fat a little bit. I think that, you know, one of the great things about AEW is also one of the issues with it, and that's that they've got so much talent. Not unlike WCW back in the day, where they've got so much great talent that they're like, okay, we got to get this guy on TV, throw it together, let's get him out there, you know. And that's what it feels like. And that's, you know, obviously in WCW there was a lot of run-ins because they had to, because they're trying to feature these talent that they're paying such big money to. And now I think that AEW is in the same position where they're like, well, we signed Miro, we want to set up this feud, send him out there, run him out. Let's have him stomp a mud hole. But you know, the Miro one I thought was a pretty decent.
No, I thought so too. I did think that.
You know, you're right though. There's an excess of it, but the Miro one was like, okay, that's a good one. The other ones were...
So if you did that, if you held off for the majority of the night and ended it off with that, I think it would have had way more. I mean, I thought it was significant nonetheless, but it would have had way more significance if you just made that this only one, maybe, out of all of them. Yep. There's another point I was going to make about all this. I think though, like to my point about like it would be less insulting to our intelligence if they just booked the matches instead of like kind of teasing them. I think that's probably their intent, is to like be like, hey, we want to create something for the fans to like buy into. So here we go. We're gonna we are gonna put these guys up front. So there's a reason to have this match next week. I think that's their intent, but I just think it would be better intended if they did it like maybe over a few weeks where they booked something or told this story, and then here and there, you, instead of just setting up these matches, you just have the match. You just schedule it next week. These guys are fighting these guys, and then tell the story, build the feud throughout that match. And there you go. If it's this is what the point I was going to make was, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and you know this, is Justified, with Timothy Olyphant, Walton Goggins, set in Kentucky, all that stuff. Modern Western, essentially. What they did, how they did their stories, was ultimately there's this overarching story throughout the season, like big bad villain, everything like that. But you could tune into an episode and you would get one story in that episode, as well as the overarching story. And like, just beautifully told. You had a little villain going on for that one episode, but you had your ultimate villain too. You had to be concerned about whoever that may have been, or whoever twist or turn it made it take. And like, Raylan Givens, the ultimate baby face, and he had some very good heels throughout that series. And so I was thinking about that in that regard, because like, and that's executable in wrestling, because that's what makes me like Justified in a lot of ways. Was I'm a wrestling fan, and they told good heels, good baby faces. So
no question about it. You know, the other simple way to go about it is that let's get somebody back there, you know, the Mean Gene of AEW, standing back there doing his little, you know, like the little like 30-second, like, next week in Alabama, I'm gonna see you, brother, and we're gonna throw down, and it's gonna be the better man. And then like the Mean Gene, it's like a segment with like, okay, here's the other guy, and here's what he has to say. And so like, those are simple ways to like build feuds, get maybe a little bit of heat, and feature all the damn talent that you have.
Yeah, no, totally. And they did that. They did some of those cool segments on Twitter. They were a little long, but they had one with Cody, and then they had one with Ricky Starks too, like where they were like vintage to that background that they had for the paid advertisement. Very good shit. Like, put that stuff on there. Yeah, I mean,
I want to see more of it.
Honestly, there's stuff like, I think AEW can get criticized. You know, you can criticize it, you know, week in and week out. Because it's on a primetime television and they're promoting a wrestling product, so it's open to criticism. But it's still a very new company, year and a half in. So it's like, you know, it's going to be a learning experience. Touch and go. You're going to try things. Some things aren't going to work. Modern times, people want immediacy. It's all kind of changing. So it's all kind of adapting. Far as other topics go, Marcus, what's a big takeaway match for you, or a big segment that we haven't touched upon yet? I have a couple in mind, but I want to see what you have to say.
Well, FTR, you know what a huge fan I am of theirs. And, I mean, man, they look like $1 million. And by the way, they made a young tag team also look like $1 million in Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr.
The Varsity Blondes.
The Varsity Blondes. So, like, they brought out the best in those two young athletes and, still got themselves over. I mean, those guys are ultimate pros. And you see, like, they give you what you want when it comes to, like, if you wanted to see some old school Bret Hart versus Owen Hart sort of a situation, like they give you that. Like some actual wrestling, some a little psychology mixed in there. I can't say enough good about FTR and what they bring to the table for AEW. That I honestly might be the best signing AEW or Tony Khan or AEW has made thus far, because those guys, like, they bring such a unique element to the show.
They very much do. And they really establish, like Thunder Rosa does, they really establish that specific division. So it's like you need those keystones for each of those divisions. And I think FTR very much plays to that. And particularly too, I mean, you have the Young Bucks style and you have that high flying style. They're the counterbalance to that. And if you make that balance somehow even out and mesh together well, you can have a pretty good product that maybe creates some new kind of intrigue and things like that. I think ultimately the execution of the initial feud with the Young Bucks and FTR, obviously we talked about, and I think, had a lot of hiccups to it. But I mean, moving forward, there's always that opportunity for it. I think,
Well, the only issue I saw was at the end, they're building towards something between them and Jurassic Express, and I'm like, if anybody's gonna dampen that flame, it'll be Luchasaurus.
But if anybody can enhance that flame, though, it'll be Jungle Boy too. So,
well, yeah, and if anybody can make Luchasaurus look good, it'll be FTR.
It's very interesting. I love the varsity blondes. I thought they were great.
You talk about potential with two guys. Both of them. They both got great looks, and I think kind of the sky's the limit. I don't know if the Varsity Blondes is going to be the right gimmick going forward, like, as they progress their careers, but it's certainly a good start.
You know what really is intriguing, and I hope this happens way down the line, but very much setting up for a great heel turn for Brian Pillman Jr. at some point in time, perhaps.
And there definitely should be. Brian Pillman Jr., I mean, Griff Garrison, I think he's got a great look.
His hot tag, man, that was something else.
Yep. He's good athlete, great look, awesome hair. But the real star of that situation is Brian Pillman Jr. He's got everything his dad had. He's a good looking kid. He's got a nice build. He's good in the ring. So he has every tool. He just needs a good dance partner, and he got it on Dynamite with FTR.
Yeah, man. Very good, very good. I want to say probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite match of the night, it might have been, actually, now that I think about it.
I think it was mine.
Yeah. The Inner Circle segment, breaking up, teasing breaking up, and then not breaking up, them shaking hands. Ortiz being the voice of reason, ultimately at the end. What'd you think of that whole thing?
Yeah, I'm getting to the point with the Inner Circle where I just don't care as much anymore. Which is a shame because, a year ago at this time, Jericho was probably the hottest heel in the business. And now it's like he comes on the screen and it's like I'm tempted to pick up my phone and see what's going on Twitter. It's not as good as it once was. I don't know if it ever will be again. It might be time to cut bait.
And do you mean by like having Jericho turn face and breaking up the faction?
Yeah, well, I think that MJF should succeed in his mission, which is apparently to break up the Inner Circle, thereby turning Jericho face and building a longer term feud between he and MJF.
You know what, man? Like, I mean, they certainly set up for that kind of thing because you had Sammy Guevara at the end, like, reluctantly shake MJF's hand, and give the preface to Jericho and MJF. If he does one more thing and fuck it up, I'm quitting, and that kind of thing. And then Jericho, I thought, played it off well too at the end, being like, I respect that you just told me straight up about that. And he's like, yeah, so let's work it together. I think it sets them both up very well to become baby faces. Him him and Sammy Guevara. And, then you remove 2 members of that group. I think you can still keep that momentum kicking with MJF's version of the Inner Circle too. But
at this point, I see more value in all of these people away from the Inner Circle. Like Santana and Ortiz, when they came out for that match against
the parking
the
lot,
Best Friends in the parking lot, and they had that like Dead Presidents look going on, I was like, there's the version of them that I want to see. They don't need the Inner Circle. They can be a fantastic tag team all on their own. And I think that that's the kind of look that they should capture. Like if they came out doing that every single time, I'm like, yep, there's your tag team. I love them.
yeah.
I think Jake Hager could be a great solo guy, just being like a big monster heel who knows how to handle himself in the ring due to his collegiate wrestling career and his time spent in MMA. Jericho is going to make a great babyface. What's his name? Sammy Guevara. He would be perfect on his own in a cruiserweight division against guys like Jack Evans and Evan
ring
Bourne.
the bell.
Mm-hmm. So like I think they could all be more compelling away from each other at this point.
It's an interesting. I mean, I can totally see that too. But yeah, I mean, because each of them all have their own significant thing, from Wardlow to Hager to all of them. Like Ortiz, I thought was really strong on his promo ability this week too. I thought it was just
no doubt about it. I see a lot of potential in. I mean, Santana Ortiz, like I said, I can see them being
big time.
They could absolutely be a money tag team.
Absolutely, 100%. Other things, Lance Archer in the triple tag match gets Butcher and Blade. Then it turned into him and Rey Fenix against Eddie and Butcher and Blade. What'd you think of all that?
Schmoz. It was okay at best, I would say. It was just too damn busy. I also noticed, I look at a guy like the Blade and I'm like, okay, this guy's a good hand. He knows what he's doing. But it was like something that I saw and picked out. He just did not understand, and it stood out for me in the match where Eddie Kingston was doing the old, hey, the ref's back is turned. Let's do the old, you come in the ring, I go out of the ring, no tag gimmick. I mean, we've all seen it a million times. If you've watched pro wrestling for the past 10 years, you have seen it. We're all familiar with this. So Eddie Kingston comes over. He's like, come on. He was like saying, like, come on, get it in the ring. And Blade just wasn't getting it. And so by the time I think he started to understand, the ref had already turned around and the moment was over. And it's like tighten it up. Everybody needs to tighten it up, pay more attention. Dude, if I'm seeing that as a fan, like if I had been on the apron, I would know exactly what he was doing and I would have gotten into the ring. How are these guys not seeing it?
Let me say this though, and this is not a shameless plug intention. I just interviewed RVD, and he was talking about how there's there's a lot of those, the fans will come and critique something about something that happens in a match or whatever goes on. He's like, you don't know the whole fucking story of what happens. You just don't. And so there could have been some sort of thing where it's just some sort of miscommunication or certain things where it's just that kind of thing that, we as non-wrestlers don't know about. Something just happens in the match that okay, what happened there? I don't know. It's same with watching football, where okay, some sort of miscommunication happens between the quarterback and the receiver, and the guy didn't run his route, or either the quarterback thought he was going somewhere and it wasn't where he was supposed to be going. I don't know. It's I really don't think just from little moments like this, you can kind of tell from what they're doing and their experience of that.
And I have nothing but respect for RVD, one of my favorite wrestlers who's ever been in the business. But I do also, and wrestlers make a good point. But the fans do not know what's going on. They don't know what's being communicated in the ring. So it's harder for us to make that judgment. At the same time, you could argue that fans see and notice way more than professional wrestlers do, especially professional wrestling fans. That we see and notice just about everything that happens on the program. We remember everything, and we then question these wrestlers on these things 10 years later in shoot interviews.
Yeah.
So you can make the argument both ways, and maybe I did misunderstand it. But let me tell you, Dominic, to me, it looked pretty damn obvious what he was doing. He was very clearly indicating get in the ring, and the Blade just did not pick up on it in time. and the moment got squashed. And that to me is and I don't have a problem with the Blade. I'm sure that 9 times out of 10 he would nail that moment. But like to me, it's like the minor details on national television that get missed. Those are the things that make the difference between a company like AEW and a company like WWE. Vince McMahon would be on the headset lighting somebody up if a spot like that got missed. Not only got missed, but then was televised. So it's they've got to get these finer moments pinned down.
Absolutely.
If they
and there's certainly mistakes. Hold on, Dusty's being a degenerate right now. He's like attacking the Christmas tree. He's gone now. But no, I mean, like some that I don't know that particular moment that you're talking about even. But I mean, certainly obviously throughout, there's plenty of mistakes that happen throughout wrestling and plenty of miscommunication things. I think it's all on a heightened level too of being on a mainstream product and on television. And it's just that shit's just gonna happen when you have like 3-man tags or multiple man tags.
And there's the real rub, Dominic. There's the real rub. I am so damn tired of seeing these crazy tornado 6-man.
Guess what you're getting next week, though? Did you see what you're getting next week?
Dude, it's unwatchable stuff.
Did you know what I'm talking about, though?
No, who is it now?
Marcus, we are having a 14-man tag match next week on Dynamite. It's all the Inner Circle and all those guys around the ring at the end of the main event this week. So you get ready, man. There's gonna
ridiculous.
There's gonna be some of that.
That's more unwatchable than like a battle royal.
It can.
Especially because like the ref can't keep track of it or control any of it. How am I supposed to be able to keep track of what's going on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, and that speaks to the point too of last week's battle royal where there was some really cool stuff going on, but we missed some of it. Like, and things didn't get to the talking points that they should have gotten either. Because of a lot of shit happening. So, yeah, man.
Dumb. Yeah. And again, they've signed so much talent that they want to feature on TV. It's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to have a 30-man tag match, just to make sure everybody gets their shit in.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm tired of seeing it. Eddie Kingston is a tremendous, tremendous talent. And you are wasting him by putting him in situations where he's not the featured person or one of 2 featured people in a match.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, Eddie, you can really, he's so versatile in a lot of ways from a promo standpoint to like ring knowledge and everything like that. There's no reason not to put him up at the forefront of some sort of big time angle or, feud or anything like that. Let's before we get to the AEW draft, I want to get your thoughts just on the main event too. Orange Cassidy and MJF and the execution of it all and the setup just in general.
Well, they showed some of the best of MJF in my opinion. Because he's again, I think should be featured as primarily a singles talent with Wardlow at ringside to be his heater. That's kind of like the sweet spot for MJF. So it was cool to see him in that setting again. I like the way. I'm glad that he got the ring back. I think that's the right thing to do.
I agree.
Him. It was a concisely done angle as far as again, we mentioned how this is a good interference. This is the right time for an interference. So you're building towards something pretty interesting with like this big infallible monster that's Miro. And then this guy who like can barely be bothered to give a shit that he's in a match with Orange Cassidy. That to me this might be the most interesting thing Orange Cassidy's been involved in.
Marcus, I love this whole if you followed on Twitter to build up this match, did you see MJF post a video of his relative cutting a promo, that 4-second promo about "you're toast," and Orange Cassidy just quote tweets it and says, "Yo, my love toast."
He is funny. I'll give it up. He's funny. He pops me sometimes during the match. You know how I feel about Orange Cassidy.
I love Orange Cassidy.
I like him. I see potential in him. I want to continue to see him evolve.
Okay. All right. No, I think he is evolving ultimately. I think it's fine. All right.
Hey, wait a
Overall,
minute.
yeah.
Before you wrap it, Abaddon, I like her a lot.
Oh, okay.
I think that she's a really fun talent, a very interesting talent. I want to see some spooky shit going on backstage. Like I want the little kids at home to get a little bit creeped out by this whole thing. You know, like flickering
Like
lights.
Wolf in Neverending Story. That fucking thing freaked me out as a child. I want that kind of freak out.
Like this should be like this indelible mark on these kids' childhoods when they're like when they're in college and they look back, they're like, man, that was terrifying. Like I want to see like lights flicker and then at the end of the hallway, way down the hallway, you see Abaddon standing there.
And just
Like
walking, like a glimmer, like just like you see.
Yep. And then the lights flicker again and she's gone.
Yeah.
Like she's booking it toward you. The lights flicker again and then she's gone. Yeah, like dude, that kind of, it would be such an easy thing to do. I could produce it. It would be such an easy thing to do. Like they have to do that. Here's the catch though, is like don't let it turn into the boogeyman in WWE. That's the only like let her remain absolutely terrifying.
And ultimately, I'm sure she's gonna lose to Sheeta, but like when she loses, make her gone for a little bit, but then have her come back at some point.
Is Sheeta ever gonna lose that goddamn title? What is going on over there?
It's gonna happen at some point.
Put it on Abaddon.
Give it to Abaddon.
No, but I really like her, and like, yeah, dude, that is a super unique thing to have. Is somebody who's like that very frightening looking. It's like, man, let's use it. But let's bring Rosemary in. Let's have them be these two creepy like sisters that like stalk the backstage and freak people out. I love it.
Yeah, to people constantly.
Absolutely, but not in a silly way. It's got to be like very serious. Like, okay, this is terrifying. I do not want to see this person in the ring.
I don't want to see it like comedic, yeah, or anything like that. Like, make it happen. Make it happen. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that I think she's like seriously, just even from a visual appearance, like talent, it's like creepiest thing in wrestling I've seen maybe ever.
Yep, no doubt about it.
No.
And again, I mentioned this a number of podcasts ago. I think that an angle like that, and a spooky vibe like that is the only way to salvage somebody like Luchasaurus at this time too. Like, let's take that stupid mask off him. Let's get a creepier mask. And like, how about like it's like, this Abaddon kind of casts a spell on him or whatever. And like, he becomes something like her.
Make her your Undertaker.
How about she marks him like she did the belt. And it starts to like screw up his whole life and his relationship with.
He fucking turns on Jungle Boy. Damn.
Yeah, he picks up Marco Stunt and rips him in half. And like intestines are flying everywhere. But then no more Marco Stunt on TV again. Like his storyline, he died.
Oh my god. Jeez. You gotta get Tom Savini in for that one.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring in Tom Savini. But then that's it. He never comes back, or he comes back as like a zombie.
Interesting.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways we can do this.
Marcus, I think you're on a roll here with that one.
Maybe I'm a little bit punchy.
Okay, anything else you want to talk about before we get your Melter rating and then we go to the AEW draft here?
Yeah, I mean, like, not just intestines. We got to see, like, lungs and his heart.
Oh,
like,
okay.
liver. Yeah. And, like, wait, what are we talking about?
We're talking about other matches or segments that happened here.
No, that's going to do it. As far as a Melter rating, I thought it was a pretty good show. I'm going to give it a 7.2.
How about that? Wow.
I will say it's mostly because of Sting and the Kenny Omega thing, but I mean there was some other really good stuff here.
Dude,
we didn't even talk about Shaq.
We didn't talk about Shaq. Yeah.
I mean Shaq was on the show. I feel like it was just a way for Brandy Rhodes to get a little TV time, but it's fine. Cody Rhodes is like he's involved in a little bit too much right now, man. Like he's got like he's in there with Sting a little bit. Like he's tag team with Darby Allin. Oh wait, Shaq hates me. Like he's just like got
this guy over here.
Shaq just for no reason, no good reason about it, but Shaq hates me.
Doesn't like me
So
for some reason. I don't get it.
right, just it doesn't make any sense. How about Shaq rips Marco Stunt in half? I'm really stuck on that.
Shaq gets marked by Abaddon.
Shaq gets marked by Abaddon and just rips Marco Stunt in half.
I don't know where to go with that.
Tears his arm off his body. You know, there's a lot of ways we could do this.
Marcus, what's been your whole shtick about like not killing people in the wrestling? You can't kill anybody. You can't say that. So
storyline. You know, if this happened on, you know, SCU or whatever, not SCU,
SVU,
SVU, or, you know, if this happened on Law and Order, like somebody just gets ripped in half, you're just like, yeah, it's, you know, it's TV. It's a TV show.
Then
Why should wrestling be any different?
Abaddon,
you know,
and then
if Marco Stunt, it's a produced television show. So like, let's say Marco Stunt's contract is coming to an end. Kill him off.
Marcus, I know we have the connection with Impact here because they've killed people off on Impact.
Oh, they have? Oh,
that's
right. There's like a murder mystery or something, isn't there?
Well, Johnny Bravo got shot, and then they had somebody die. Oh, the bunny, I think, died. She died on Impact.
Now she's back.
See? This is it, Marcus. You kill off Marco Stunt on AEW, boom, he's on Impact.
There's got to be like a lot of gore, though. Spinal cord.
Marcus, but aren't you more of you're the horror movie guy that's like less is more with horror movies. Isn't that correct?
Well, yeah, that's why you never really see Abaddon. She's just like way at the end of the hallway, you know, and then randomly, like the Jurassic Express is like doing like a stand-up promo, and she just comes up behind Marco Stunt and just rips a big chunk out of his neck or something.
Not The Walking Dead.
All right, I think we've kicked that horse to death. Let's talk the AEW Draft.
I feel like there was something else I had to say though. Don't I usually have some sort of thing that I do? MVPs. We got to give her MVPs.
Yes. Okay.
Dusty's being a real fuckface right now. Dusty, no, down, down, don't, down.
Oh, he's sassing you.
He's sad. Did you hear that?
I did.
Down, Dusty, down.
I think we're both getting punchy.
All right. MVPs, Marcus. Who you got?
It's got to be the Icon Sting, Dom.
Again?
I mean,
2 times in a
row.
row.
Two times in a row. We got a different flavor of Sting, as I mentioned, but you know, man, it's such a presence, such a as I just said, an icon in the business. It's I'm very anxious to see what they do with him. You know, usually a company brings in a legacy talent, especially a legacy talent in his early 60s, and you're just like, does this guy need a payday? What's going on here? But when it comes to Sting, he's just such an icon, dude, that I'm super anxious to see how it goes.
I think that's a good choice. That's who I was initially as I was writing and like seeing, I was just, flabbergasted and just really amped up for Sting in AEW, like ultimately. And that's what you want. That's what you want for casual fans and ardent fans. If you're able to execute that, and WWE, to, as much as I criticize them, they do that very well with Goldberg too, but that's also plays into the star power of Goldberg and Sting. So, that's a good. My MVP is somebody very connected to that, and that's Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin, just his little moments laughing at Sting, and to that segment too. Not in the ring, didn't have a match, thought he presented a lot. So Darby Allin is my MVP for this week.
Interesting, compelling, good stuff.
Something we didn't even mention was the Team Taz segment, brief Team Tag segment. Dude, fucking Hook. I like him, man. Him just standing there staring, like it's so much you can do with that. You have so many versatile characters from Brian Cage to Ricky Starks to fucking Taz to Hook. It's good shit, man.
And he looks like a shooter.
Yeah, man. He looks like he could kick the shit out of anybody almost.
Yeah. So I think that he still looks young, but he's one of those kids that I think is going to grow into his role in the business, And yeah, I mean, he's got this very serious vibe to him. And like, you can tell like this kid trained as a wrestler. Like he knows how to take you down and probably stretch you.
Silent killer, man. Silent fucking killer. That's what you want.
Yep. We also did not touch on Adam Page and the two cowboy hat
We kind
wearing.
of did. But go ahead.
Guys.
What do you want to say about that?
I hated it. We can move on.
That's all. That's all you want to say?
I just want to say I am tempted to fast forward anytime Adam Page is on my screen now, and it should not be that way. A guy who looks as good as he does and wrestles as good as he does, I should be excited every time he's on the screen. And right now, dude, I just want to fast forward. Also, is he an alcoholic again? I guess you'd have to be to allow yourself to be in that angle.
You're really setting yourself up for these ones. I think ultimately, yeah, Hangman can be better used, and he should be better used. I'm not as bad as you are. I like Hangman, but yeah, like when that whole segment started, I was like, oh man, we're getting depressed Hangman again. I was about to tap out to it, but like, I think like his interaction with the Dark Order and that kind of, or Alex Reynolds and John Silver, I think that kind of, he still established himself as somebody like, as a voice of reason and kind of like, okay, to the point of being like the cool kid in high school where he's like, all right, I'll interact with you, but I'm not joining your fucking AV club. Okay. I thought that was okay. Yeah, but so, yeah, ultimately
fully changed the vibe of the Dark Order. They're a very, very different thing than they were before.
Little too comedic. Too comedic. They gotta kind of serious it up. We haven't gotten any notion of Brody Lee either, so I'm very curious what's going on there. Dusty, what are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks like Brody Lee pulled the fucking parachute just in time to get out of that angle. My goodness.
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see him back and where they put him ultimately once he does. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you ultimately with Hangman, like in how they're handling. He should have been, dude. It's just to that point of Rio Bravo in that moment that you had where he's like, boom, Stan Hansen rule. Stan Hansen rule should always apply to Hangman Page. It's just.
And Stan Hansen would not have talked to two guys in tiny cowboy hats.
He might have talked to them, but he would have pie faced them and been like, get the fuck out of here.
And both of them would have had the shit. I just said both of them would have had the shit beat out of them by the end of the segment if Stan Hansen had been there.
Right. I think they're good in their roles. John Silver's, we talk about him all the time, and I think Alex Reynolds has great body language and stuff like that. But yeah, ultimately you got to find these. You got to put them in the right puzzle pieces. The puzzle pieces.
John Silver has all the potential to be almost like a Dean Malenko type character, or like he's like if Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit had like a baby, where it's like he has like all of this explosiveness to him. He's got this like great like stocky little body, where he's like the little engine that could, kind of like Malenko was, where it's like, yeah, that guy could probably kick the crap out of somebody a lot bigger than him, and he just being poorly used, being very, very poorly used.
Yeah, no, I agree with. I mean, you got to watch. Did you maybe type in Twitter like John Silver Tough Enough? Did you see those clips of him? Like, I don't know if it was like his audition for Tough Enough or it was something they did on BTE, but it was really funny. It was really good shit.
I don't want to see him be funny.
I know you don't want to see him be funny, but it is good. It's entertaining. So there's that. Okay, Marcus, the music is cueing. It is AEW Draft time. You're looking around. Whoa, what's going on here? This round 2 of the AEW Draft, baby. And Marcus, you wanted me to put up a poll. I never put up a poll, but I will say.
Not surprised.
I will say this. On the surface, you won the first round. Surface-wise.
I did.
Surface-wise. But like I said, I'm laying the groundwork. And my plan is still in place, so I'm okay with it. Ultimately, so let's run down the picks just real quick. First overall choice was a good one you did, Cody Rhodes. My first overall choice was Jon Moxley. Who was your second overall choice?
I wound up getting Le Champion, Chris Jericho.
Correct. Then I threw the curveball and went for the absolute Ricky Starks. You then chose who?
My final pick was Kenny Omega.
Oh, you're breaking up again.
Oh my God, this thing.
I don't know what's going on.
Dom, my final pick was Kenny Omega.
Correct. And dude, he's picking up momentum too. Picking up momentum. And then
feeling good about it.
Feeling good about it. Yes. And then I got the first woman in the draft here, and who should have been but none other than Thunder Rosa. So very happy with first round. What's great about this week is I get to pick this time around first. And I've given some mighty thought, and, I could go either way with my game plan here. But you know what? I'm really wanting to lay further groundwork on things. Somebody who we talk about almost positively week in and week out. None other. My choice here is MJF. Taking MJF for the fourth overall pick. My fourth overall pick, but the first pick of the second round.
A strong selection. Certainly a strong selection. And Dominic, I'm just glad that you didn't pick what I'm going for next. And that is the greatest tag team on the face of the planet. FTR has joined my squad.
Excellent choice. Very good choice. And I cannot argue with that whatsoever. Now, what you did this past week, I cannot deny, is you already picked star power. You had Cody.
Main event talent.
You had Cody. You had Jericho. Big stars, big name stars. Now, I have the groundwork for stars that are up and coming, but I don't have that, like, whoa, like a name that household name. Household name. So this is why right now I am going to draft the icon Sting. I'm picking Sting right here, right now.
Tell you what, he's going to be my next selection. So you can't go wrong having a legacy talent like Sting in there. Our MVP 2 weeks in a row, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, and he's only been on AEW 2 weeks. That's it.
So only good things to come for Sting, I'm sure. And only good things to come for my next selection, which is the TNT champion, Darby Allin.
Very nice choice. Very nice choice. And so much of a ceiling, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. Okay. So, hey. Wow. I think I took it this week, Marcus. I hate to say it, man, but here it is. Closing it out here with none other than your AEW Tag Team Champions. I'm taking the Young Bucks, baby.
Hey, you had a good week, Dominic. You had a damn good week.
A+ week.
No question about it. But you left the door open for me to get somebody.
Wait, do I hear the door cracking open?
Oh, that's the door opening wide.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it's opening up, Dominic, for the new best there is, best there was, and best there ever will be. The excellence of execution, Serena Deeb.
Oh, okay. All right. Little bit of a curveball there. I was not expecting that.
NWA Women's Champion and one of the best wrestlers on the face of the planet, behind only the lovely Thunder Rosa.
Oh, happens to be a part of my team.
Well, it's a neck and neck race between these two, Dom.
We are picking it up, baby. Picking it up. Rock solid round 2, I would say. Very rock solid. Marcus, you know what? We have a new Twitter account, don't we?
We do. Dominic, our listeners can follow us at 2 Dynamite Dudes. Isn't that it?
That's it. All you got to do, number 2, and then Dynamite Dudes. And you got us on Twitter. That's how it happens. What a following we have, too. It's me, it's you, it's Kev Kellum, it's WrestleZone, and I think that's it.
All right. Well, hey, we're off to a great start.
Great start.
That's a good first round draft pick right there, Dom. All those 4. WrestleZone, Kev Kellum, me and you.
Bald guys, and then an entity of that we've been associated with for how about 20 years.
That's fan-damn-tastic. But yeah, go give us a follow on there, guys. Check us out. We're going to share all kinds of interesting stuff on there. Dominic might do a poll, probably won't.
I'll do a poll this week. Why not?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Will you believe me?
Nope.
Marcus, I am a busy man, and I have a lot of spinning plates here. So I have a lot of plugs to make, but I also had to do graphic design shit to do that I wanted to do for the draft results.
Nobody's interested in your excuse. Why don't you just plug your shit, Dom?
Okay, hey, all right, I gladly will. So I interviewed Arn Anderson this week. Talked to him for like 30 minutes, and it's Marcus is no selling my plugs. I interviewed Arn Anderson. We talked about him just being in factions, him being Cody's coach, the presence of Sting. We talk about Larry Zbyszko training the tits, baby. And then we also just we talk a little bit of sports too and incorporate that in there. Arn is such a smart individual, like for the business, obviously, and knows all the ins and outs of it, and such a nice person too. It was really, really awesome to speak with him. I was just one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. And I say that a lot about my interviews, but I mean, Arn Anderson's great. So he was an interview I had. We just published the interview I did with Calvin Tankman of MLW. And I love what MLW's been doing since they've hit the restart. And Calvin Tankman is such a presence on there. We talk about people talk about athletic big men and everything like that. Calvin Tankman does it. And I tell you what, this match that he had on Fusion this past Wednesday, the finish to it's fucking badass. And like, he's a badass, and it's great too. He sets himself up. He knows the art of storytelling, and big talking point that we have in that interview. And then finally, Marcus and I, we talked about it earlier in this episode. I got to interview RVD on Friday, and it's just awesome. Like, dude, like, what I love about RVD is who he is, and what you see from him on television or what you hear from him. He doesn't take any shit, but he doesn't let any shit bother him either. And it's I got to talk to him about an hour and it wasn't like we talked wrestling, but we also talked mafia movies. We talked about like his CBD oil stuff, his advocate for like marijuana and the benefits that it has, what he wants to ultimately help out with his wrestling colleagues that, from concussions and all that stuff. He's such a like laid back dude. We talk about his dogs and Katie Forbes. It's been great. It was an awesome interview. I'm so excited to get that all published.
Did you ask him if he has any intention of joining up with on any of the major companies?
I asked him about his free agency, and he talks about that. But I'm not going to tell you what he says because I want you to listen to the freaking interview. So there you go.
Gotta go listen, folks.
So go listen to that. Marcus, how do they follow your dumbass on Twitter? You're surly feeling the oats ass on Twitter this week.
You can follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo. And what do you mean feeling my oats? What is that?
That means you're really like in the swing of things here. You're like you're very confident and very punchy almost. So,
well, let me tell you what. You respect me on the Twitter. I respect you. You come at me, I will wreck you in a public forum.
Has anybody come at you yet? I don't think so.
No, nobody has. But let me tell you what, Dom. When they do, I will tear them in half like Marco Stunt.
You're hypothetical. You're hypothetical.
Hopefully only for a little while. We need something like that on TV.
I don't know if we necessarily need that to that extent. Like, it's just hammering the water right now.
Oh, that screwdriver hit me hard, Dom.
Is that kind of what helped with the whole
It's probably why I talked about pulling intestines out of somebody on wrestling television.
That just doesn't make sense. The screwdrivers come at you quick and fast, baby.
They would hit me hard. Dominic, they follow you. How?
You follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. And I tell you what, I had 1,000 followers. I had 1,003 followers. And now I'm down to 999. I don't know what the hell happened.
Lost some followers. Might be because of your illegible rating.
I think so. My gibberish, Marcus, please. I'm just full of gibberish. And listen, hey, what are we gonna do? I preach from what I do. I have a passion, and I voice my opinion, and I convey that on WrestleZone.com. One of a kind writing is what I call it. So there you go.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Dominic. I'd never want to see Mark Madden on national television again. But if Luchasaurus was going to turn heel and maybe rip him in half, I'd check it out.
That's very interesting. Maybe Tony Khan's listening to that one.
Tony, bring Mark in to kill him off. We could probably cut that part.
No, I'm all right with it. We'll leave it. Hey, okay. I think
we're talking about stories, guys. It's a wrestling TV show. If you're gonna follow me on the Twitter, let's not come at me with a bunch of stuff about how I want to see people die.
Marcus, honestly, I don't think you really have to worry about people coming at you.
I'm probably not going to get anybody acknowledging me on Twitter.
No, you're lucky I give you a like or two here. So, and I'm your brother, so
hey, I've got some significant followers there, bub.
Let's close out with this. If for the watchers here, the watchers on YouTube are 200 watchers. Look at this, Marcus. Look at this run in here. Are you ready? Here it is. The two Dynamite brothers right there.
Oh, wow. I'll tell you what, it'd be nice to still have a head of hair like that.
Oh, man, look at you. I think, what are you thinking about right now, do you think, at that point in time?
It looks like I've got a dirty secret.
Oh, Marcus, your audio sucks. What did you just say?
I said it looks like I've got a dirty secret.
Look at my fucking mushroom top. What were mom and dad thinking with that? Just keeping me like that.
Well, they had one look at you and they were like, you know what, this kid's a slap dick, so just go ahead and give him a slap dick haircut.
He's got no hope. This kid's got no hope. Let's just let him roll out in life and learn the lessons the hard way.
That's right.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Oh, don't want to leave the meeting. Cancel. I got to hit stop.